Hi, Christine at Lone Oak Farm, and today I'm going to talk to you about my record keeping. I started gardening, 20 something years ago, and it was just backyard flowers, a few tomato plants and peppers that did amazing. And I kept no records, and then I moved, and slowly it became bigger and bigger, and moved to a place that I could have a fairly good sized garden. I think it was 30 by 30. And I think I did a little bit of planning, but not on a huge scale. And then we moved to a house it was an old farmhouse that was on a half a block, and I had a massive amount of area to garden. And I started keeping track of it in a notebook, because there's the orders that you make, the varieties that you buy, I got into making sure that I didn't keep my tomatoes in the same place as the year before, and knowing what I grew and what varieties. And so I have this notebook. It keeps me on track. And when we moved here to this property, it became a homesteading, not just a gardening notebook, but my homesteading notebook. I just have a desire to grow our own food. It's something that over the years you see the price of meat skyrocket, and you see videos and news reports on what they're doing to the animals and what they're feeding them, and it's concerning. And of course I love gardening, but you also cannot beat homegrown produce, green beans, salsa. You can't buy salsa like what I create in my kitchen. I mean, it's phenomenally different. And I guess I've gotten more and deeper into it. And my goal is to grow as much, or raise as with the animals, as much of our food as I possibly can. So, and this right here, this keeps me in check, and it's my brain some days. So, okay, let me get this camera moved, and then we'll get started. I'm a book reader also. So the first thing I have is 2 full pages of different books that I would like to own or order. This is just, I have some rocks outside that I've collected, and I need to make a rock wall. This is the notes that I made, that I found. This is the very beginning. I have copies of my current garden map, and I have several. I always keep a lot. Actually, I need to get a few more printed out, but I always have a stack of these, because it's much easier to go through with a pen and highlight when I'm walking through the garden, and I know this. I make notice that the strawberries need to be done. The asparagus got moved, so this actually is not even up to date. I have a stack of them, but there's also paper, different, anything that I would need. This I have used more than anything. They're just little, the tabs have pockets. I use the ones that have the pockets on both sides, so that all the notes that I keep, this one doesn't, but most of them do. But this one, they have pockets so that you can keep receipts. This is for the cows. There's pigs, chickens, soap making. I have made lye soap, and this is canning. I started a little list of, this is where you need to start when you start a garden. Write down what you'd like to grow and decide what you would use, how much of it. There's no use growing kale for you if you're not going to use it. We use tomatoes all the time, so I would like to have this much in tomatoes next year. I made this and printed it out, and I have high hopes of being organized with my canning more than I have in the past, but we will see how that goes. I would hope to make one page, one type of fruit or vegetable, so that I can write how many quarts and how many pints I get of each one, so that a year from now when I'm planning next year's garden, I can see what's left over and see if I need to increase what I can or decrease what I can. But cheese making. I am not milking a cow right now. I have in the past, and I love making cheese. Roses and flowers. This is why I keep, this one has two, but this is why I have the tabs with the pockets. The receipts that I get go in the front, and actually I just cleaned this out. So this is just the ones for this year. Here's the ones from, some of the ones from last year, but this is the map with all of the roses that are growing and their varieties. There's a few that I do not have the names of because they were transplanted from the old house, and I didn't keep the records very well. Let me see, let me show you. I wrote it down, but this is a very crude map from my old house. So yeah, this I actually just made out this year. It's all of the varieties that I have. The habit, size, color, fragrance. Some of them can take light shade, and I made sure to mark that so I'd know which ones could. If it's a miniature and if it's a David Austin, I actually have a special affection for David Austin roses. So I actually have 3 more ordered for this year. This is herbs. All of the herbs that I have like to keep, plans. This is something that never came to about, but there's still hope. There's still hope for me. This is my vegetable garden tab. I'll pull these out and I will show you what these are later. This is something I printed out. It's just from, this is garden.org, but every crop, when to sow the seeds indoors, when to transplant the seeds, or when to direct sow. And it's just for my zone. So this has been so helpful. I just got this actually a couple weeks ago, but these are this is the garden plan for this year. And I have one, this is from 2 years ago. That's 2018. This is what I start out with. Every little square is 2 feet. And everything is planned out. And every year, these 2 sides, they basically stay the same, but I flip them to give some sort of rotation. It's not much, but I do try. And on all 4 corners, there's trellises so that the tomatoes have something to grow up. And these dried beans and cucumbers, the things that really need a structure. There's one over here for the peas also. The arches down the middle, I haven't planned what goes on the outer sides, but the middle will have the loofah. I planted loofah for the first time last year, and I planted it on the back one, and I think I even put it on one side only, and it just took over the whole thing. And it was so shady by the end of the year, it was just a favorite place for me. So I want to do them on the middle where I have benches so that by summertime, by the middle of summer, end of summer, when it's really hot, there'll be a cool place to sit. So, and actually, there's one in here. These, I even made bigger ones. There's 2 of these, one for the east side, and there's the east, I guess. The other one's west. But it's amazing to look at this one and see how much it has changed. This was probably the first or second year, and how I have changed it all, because the whole thing is raised beds now. So, but this is my, something I would recommend to everybody. I'm hoping to not put too much glare, but this is laminated, and I took this out to the garden with me. At the bottom, I wrote in the spacing for all the seeds. And that way I took this out to the garden and I would just wipe it off when I came back in. And I could put everything where I needed to put it. And actually, this is also what this is. You can tell they don't do as well. I laminated it 1 year, and I will probably do it again this year, because you can see how they don't really withstand getting wet. But these were very handy, because these fit in my back pocket, and I could take these right out to the garden with me. Okay, let's move along to the last one. And the vegetable garden and the fruit are the ones I would definitely keep track of. This is all of my receipts, and if I just buy one, I will actually, at a store, I will try to cut it out and keep something so I can keep track of what everything is. This is my varieties, but this isn't. Most everything needs a, let me find it, I might have thrown it away. No, here it is. Apple pollination chart. When you grow apples, they have to have a pollinator. So this was me writing everything down and making sure each one had a pollinator so that I was good to go. Peaches do not need a pollinator. When you buy them, make sure that you know, is it self-pollinating? But even some of the self-pollinating varieties, you will get a bigger and a better harvest if it has a cross-pollinator with it. Let's see, actually what I want is right here. This is the most important thing I have in my fruit tab. This is a very, very large map of my garden. And I did this, actually this one goes right here. And this one is probably still in there. But you can tell which ones had to be replaced. But every single variety is written down, so that if one of them dies, like my peaches I planted them all, and then I didn't realize that this area was really low, and all 3 of them drowned, and I've had to replace them. These actually have been replaced, as has this one and that one. So everything up to this point, and there's actually a pear right here, but everything is planted in, and it's such a good feeling to get to this place. But I had, the neighbor's cows came through and took out one of them along here, one of the apples. And so I had to go back through, and it was not offered anymore. So this is important to know in that case, to know that this is the one that died. This is the one I have to replace. So I make sure that in case it was one of my pollinators, my important pollinators. This is one of the first ones. Let's see, I think I took it out, so I'll make sure I show you. This is my first one that I made. My first map of the garden. And you can see how many times they've been crossed out, and even the strawberries are listed which variety. There is 4 different varieties that I planted originally. And this one did not do well at all. Actually, there was cardinal and surecrop both in this spot, and neither one did very well. The All-Star is doing amazing, and the Chandler, Sparkle, and Early Glow also are doing very well. All four are different ripening. They all ripen at a different time. So I can have a longer harvest period. These are all June bearing. They're ever bearing, and then there are June bearing. And I have tried the ever bearing, but they do not do well in Kansas. So the June bearing I have had amazing luck with. You do not know what a strawberry tastes like until you've had a homegrown strawberry, my opinion. But I used to have 4 rows of raspberries, and I'm down to 2. And the asparagus has been moved to a whole row because I have so much asparagus. We love asparagus, which is fine. Over here, all of this has been developed from the shed down. So this is a very, very primitive map, but you can see each one of the dwarf fruit trees that I put in between the blueberries. It's a wide row. I think it's 16 feet. Actually, and I read that blueberries will actually benefit from just a little bit of shade. So I planted dwarf trees along here. There's 2 pear on this side and 2 dwarf apple on this side and 2 almonds in the center. So they're all small. They will not get very big, but it will give the blueberries just a little bit of shade at different times of the day. We'll see how it goes. They can always be taken out later if they inhibit the blueberries too much. But years ago, I bought one of these monthly planners and started at what our average frost date, which is April 13th, and counted back whatever the recommended planting date was, whether it be transplanting or start from seed. And I wrote it in here, in when to harden off, when to side dress. I took a lot of time to write this out, and it has been really helpful to know like what did well planting when I did, and what did not do well planting when I did. If I could have done it earlier, if I could have done, I mean, every year is going to be different when it comes to your weather. But like this one, I started my sweet potatoes the 1st of April, and it was not early enough to get slips. So, or even get a nap. I think maybe I had gotten 4 or 5, but it was not early enough at all. And actually I bought one for this year, and I started my sweet potatoes on the 7th. So it's a full month, or almost a full month before. So I'm hoping that it does a lot better. But you can keep track of everything like later on in the year, when to side dress, when to do, what to plant in the fall, how well everything does. And that way the next year I keep both of them out so that I can compare. This is everything that I've ordered, the transplant list. And this year I actually did, the one in pencil is everything that you're supposed to plant. This was by the moon signs, and I was going to give it a shot. That's the reason some of this is written out, to see if it really helps, and if there's any truth to it helping. So everything in pencil, it was from the Farmer's Almanac, the moon planting. I'd like to try that again this year to see, keep better records, because I didn't follow through with if it was better, or I didn't have anything to compare it to. So I would like to try that again. Well, I hope that was a help to anybody, somebody learned a little something. I don't know. This is how I do it. If it helps somebody, that's great. If you enjoyed it, like, subscribe. We'll see you next time.